Welcome back to the History Club podcast.
Woo! We are so excited to be back, and we have a very special guest today. We are not affiliated with any university, but if we were, we would have a professor from that university here. Please welcome Professor Young.
Yay!
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It is my first ever time on a podcast.
Are you excited?
I'm still waking up.
Okay. Okay. Now, normally we ask you questions, but we've been told that you want to lead off this podcast.
Well, I guess I'm curious, given, that I have taught both of you and I know both of you as learners and also where you're at in your learning. And, given one of you has already graduated and one of you is about to graduate, I guess I'm curious to know about what you have taken from your learning, and whether you, beyond kind of taking classes and doing assignments and progressing in your degree, ever step back and reflect at all on what you're actually doing and how this is changing you, like how it's affected you, particularly because you're both in a position, I think, where you can kind of look back on it a little bit. Do you do that at all? Or do you just kind of get on to the next thing?
I would say that as a result of me very close to graduating, I've been reflecting a lot more on what I've learned in particular. Just how I spent my time in classes. There's some moments where may have been like, oh yeah, I wish I'd taken this class instead of this class or something like that. But I feel like I learned a lot from the classes that I did take, and I took a lot of very important skills, I think, that I didn't realize. I think that so for example, the immigration and assimilation class that you taught helped me in knowing better the circumstances for immigrants. And as a result, I was able to take that knowledge and apply it to the real world. And as a part of my job when I was working for, and I thought that was really important.
Interesting.
What about you, Kim?
I also feel like now that I'm out of it, I can look back and reflect more. And I think also once you're out of it for a couple of months, you kind of see it for what it really was a little bit more than you do when you're in it. But I think I gained a lot from what I learned a lot. I think I learned a lot of skills, how to write, how to speak, how to read. I don't remember a lot of what I've learned. I'll confess, I'm not the best at remember facts. There's some classes that I took and I couldn't tell you anything about the Renaissance or the Reformation, and I did take that class. But I think I still gained something out of it.
Well, you guys both talk about skills and also the content of the classes, but what about you as humans? Were you changed by this, or is that not a register that you think about it on? Have you thought at all about how your education changed you as people, or is that something that just doesn't resonate?
As humans, that really wasn't an aspect that I thought to consider all that much. I usually look at it from the angle of what skills I develop, but as a human, I suppose. There's classes I took social psychology that was one that gave me a better perspective of myself and the things that make me tick and what intricacies I have compared to other people that make me so much more different. And I think it just sort of over time it develops without you even realizing. It's an undercurrent that just keeps on the back burner until it's ready to boil over to the surface.
How are you different than you were when you were 18 now? And what, if anything, did your education have to do with that? And it might not even just be the classes. I mean, it could also be social stuff or community stuff or experiences outside the classroom. I guess the thing I'm curious about is like the meaning and the value of what we actually do in the classroom in like a human sense, and whether that is something that resonates for students.
I think it does. I think college as a whole is a transformative experience. I think like boiling it down to a class, it might not feel like you changed much during one class, but like just being in a different social structure, meeting new people, doing new things, learning new things. I think that's important.
What about the academic part, though? How does that change you, or doesn't it? Like, is it a matter of, okay, I have this degree program, I have these requirements, I have these classes. Within those classes, there are assignments, but like, there's this other thing that I'm wondering, like, is there anything that happens in the classroom that changes you? Like, how are you different than when you were 18?
I would say, like, in the classroom, I suppose, like, I got to meet a bunch of new people that I wouldn't have ever been able to meet outside of the classroom. And the inside the classroom stuff propelled itself further to outside the classroom activities, to hang out and get to know each other a lot better than we would have in class. And I think aspects like that are really important in developing like some sort of support structure or something while you're in college. Like obviously you have your family, but I'm not a commuter, but like from the perspective, no, I'm a commuter, but I'm not a living on campus. So from that perspective, not having my family around would be more devastating. So I would need to develop some more of a support structure, and making friends within the classroom would help to develop this further.
Uh-huh. How are you different than when you were 18?
I think in a lot of ways.
And what does your education have to do with it?
I don't know. I think it's, yeah, I think like Owen said, you have this experience of meeting new people, of hearing different views. You learn a lot. You are challenged. You have to deal with stress. You have to learn how to manage your time. You have to be like on top of things.
Uh-huh.
I think those are, like, I know it's like skills, like we were talking about earlier, but I think you also change through the development and like gaining skills.
Yeah. Do you get independence too, and like self-reliance? Like, do you feel more intellectually independent and even strengthened, or personally strengthened?
I think so. I think because college is structured around like you have the freedom to choose. Like you can choose what classes you want to take. Like if I really wanted to, my last semester I could have taken like engineering, a bunch of like engineering courses, even though it wouldn't have helped me. But I could have done that because I had the free will to do that, and I had the ability to set up my schedule the way that I wanted to. So in that way, the rigid structure of high school is sort of gone. Like you're here from this time and you leave at this time. That's no more. You can show up when you want. You can leave when you want. You have nothing specifically binding you to be in class, but you come to class because you want to learn. And I think that's really important.
And then within the classes themselves, like if you had more room to choose, like your path and your interest and what the class can be for you, like would that help along those lines? Or is that so? Because I feel, I mean, this is a quandary I have as a teacher, is like wanting to give students more ownership over the class and more of an ability to direct it and make it theirs. But I find sometimes that students don't necessarily want that, that it can be a little daunting or a little bit vague, or it can be too much of a demand. And so there's a defaulting almost to wanting it to be structured and predictable and manageable. I guess it's the key word.
Yeah.
Like, would you want to have more choice within classes to forge your way?
I think it depends. I think it gets to a point where it's impractical. Like there is a hard cutoff where like at a certain point you have too much choice, and it's like it doesn't make sense.
Too much choice.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for the student or the professor. Like it's just hard to pull off. I think also like there's the issue of you're asking somebody to find what they're interested in and make a choice within a topic they might not know about. So if you say you can write a research paper on anything that has to do with this topic, but you haven't taught them the topic yet, or like we can center this course around your interests. They just might not know yet. I think there's value in like making people learn about everything rather than just picking something they're interested in and going straight there.
Where is the place though for students taking ownership and having more direction, like in teaching and in the classroom? Or is that something that you feel like is impractical? Your word was, yeah, impractical.
Yeah.
What could that mean, like for you to claim it?
I think as Campbell said, you don't want to give them too much leeway to the point where you're not hitting specific objectives that you want them to learn as a part of the class. But I think having the structure to sort of decide how they are taught, I suppose, would be the most efficient way of doing it. Like, because there's some people that learn best with the good old PowerPoint slides and meandering around the classroom,
Or they
lecturing. And there's some that learn better with like having the actual experience in front of them in whatever way that would be, like some sort of activity or like some sort of website that they can explore, something like that. And just like having that freedom, I suppose. And then also like when it comes to discussion courses, I think those are also the very effective in like, obviously you are able to lead the conversation which way you want, but they have the ability to go on whatever tangent they feel like they have to talk about. Like this is of importance to them. They want to make sure that their thoughts are set.
Do you both get more from discussion classes than from like more structured, traditional kind of pedagogy, or is it variable from class to class? Or can you learn from both? You learn differently in both.
I think you can learn from both, but I prefer discussion courses for sure.
Yeah.
But what is it about it like that allows?
I don't think I learned from somebody just talking at me for an hour and 15 minutes. It's just like at a certain point, it's just like, I'm not going to remember the facts you tell me, and I'm not engaging with it myself in any significant, meaningful way.
Yeah. At some certain point, you're just sort of writing down facts that show up on the slideshow, and then you're going to the next slide, and then you're writing down facts from the slideshow. Rinse and repeat for like an hour. It gets a little bit tiring sometimes, especially if you're not engaged with the content as much as you really want to be.
So when you're discussing, you feel more engagement. But you're both saying there's a limit to that and that you need some scaffolding, like whether it's a setup or it's a structure to the class or something that's kind of knowable and predictable that then allows you the space to be able to engage comfortably. Like it can't just be completely open-ended.
No, but I think like if you like have a reading and then you discuss that, like that can be the scaffolding, and then it can be open-ended from there. But you just like couldn't set up a classroom and say, hey guys, let's come in and let's talk about World War II for an hour and a half every day.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this? Do you prefer lectures or discussion?
Definitely not lectures, but what I wonder is, even in a discussion-based format, is there a desire for a certain kind of predictability and routine that can become knowable and that allows us all to enact familiar, predictable roles so that the class kind of becomes scripted, which is fine in a sense because it seems comfortable, but then I don't think it's necessarily like true learning.
Yeah.
Because like risk and unpredictability is being kept at bay and it becomes a little bit more like managerial. And so that's the thing that I run up against is how even, if I don't necessarily want it to become centered around the professor or, very routinized and bureaucratized, how classes tend to have a gravitational pull toward that. And that's when they die.
Sure.
So what's the way to like disrupt that is what I'm wondering about.
I think breadcrumbing students to try and get them to lead themselves to the sort of discovery that you want them to find, rather than forcing it down their throat that like this is what you need to take away from the discussion, just sort of like leading a trail for them to follow, for them to be like, Eureka, I've thought of it. Here it is.
Eureka. You're way too young to be using a word like eureka.
But yeah.
Interesting. You have thoughts on this?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I'm definitely. I mean, if I could tell our audience, you are anti-grade. You're very anti-grade, or at least I think you're anti-grade, and I've been coming around to that. That grades are what prevent the classroom from being risk, or what make it risk averse.
What's changed for you in that?
It's like grades don't matter to me anymore now that I'm out of undergrad. And it's like, man, I feel so much more freed.
What's filled that space? Like, do you feel like you now have like more of a sense of your own motivation or intrinsic motivation? Because you're always motivated.
Sure.
But like, what has changed with grade being out of the picture?
It's just like I can do whatever I want, and I don't need to like do it in order to like do it well in the eyes of somebody else. I just have to like do what makes me feel fulfilled.
But you have the confidence now to be able to kind of do whatever you want. Whereas what you both were saying is a lot of times, like maybe earlier in your own academic career, or maybe, you know, depending upon different students, that you might not feel able to do what you want.
Sure. I don't necessarily feel like that confidence is like justified in any way, but it's what's happening.
But that's so great.
I guess.
Well, because then you feel free to kind of explore like your education, but also like what your education could be and what you could be through your education. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, bring it back around, like that's the thing that I wonder, because that's where you open up the transformative potential of education. Instead of, okay, like here's the setup, and like this is the syllabus, and these are the requirements, and like I think that's more managerial, and it can be more comforting because it's like a default setting within our society as a whole. But like what you're talking about is a whole different kind of exploratory and transformative potential in education.
Maybe. Did you have that?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. But I really wanted my education to transform me because I wanted to get away from like where I came from. And so anything that I found like at college or in books or in my professors was like a lifeboat just to go to some other place. But that's just not always the case. And I think things have changed. And that's the other part of this is like where we're at now, where education, especially humanities education, is under attack and is devalued, including by the university. And so, like, how do we find and affirm the value and the meaning of what we do in the classroom? That's really why I'm asking the question, because I think it really is the question now, but it's easy to kind of not think about it because it's a disruptive and anarchic question.
Yeah.
Really.
So when you were younger, did you see school as like some sort of escapism? Is sort of like what you're leaning towards?
I mean, it's going to sound ridiculous, but it's more like salvation. Just more like something, a world that was meaningful and just like more interesting and more real than the world that I saw kind of outside my door. Yeah, just some other place that you could kind of explore and feel more comfortable in for your entire life, really. You know, so you're always reading, you're always curious, and you're always questioning and revising. And like, that's the way to live a fully human and satisfying life. But those are like humanities values and humanist values. But I just think our society is really moving away from all of that radically present.
Why do you believe that?
Why are we in a crisis right now?
I mean, in gentle terms, I suppose.
I mean, I think it comes down to what's valued and how we ascribe value. And when things don't have transactional value, like you guys even, I don't mean to call you out on this, like both were talking about skills. which is the language that you hear from the university.
Mm.
And now it's all about like developing skills that can kind of help you in the real world, because what we're doing here somehow isn't real.
I mean, it's a podcast. This is the most authentic.
Well, but like this is the value system that we have is like transactional. It's capitalism. You know, like everything has to have transactional kind of exchange value.
Mm.
And so things that have intrinsic value, you have to really work hard to convince people that they actually have value. Because it's not seen as normal.
Mm.
So.
I mean, this is a fictional university after all.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
Don't you think skills can be like an intrinsic value though? Like when we're talking about skills, we're not talking about like
skills for what though? Like what are they
for life?
For
time management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a million ways to learn that though. You know, I mean, I think college can help you with that, but so can having a job.
Yeah.
So can, I don't know, having your parents on your case all the time. Like there are many different ways to kind of get a skill like time management.
Do you think a college can actually teach any unique skills in the 21st century?
I mean, if you consider something like critical thinking to be a skill, like, sure. But I think those kinds of things, much more like critical thinking and boundless curiosity and cultural kind of openness and flexibility, you know, these are all like the humanities kind of virtues that I think you get, like from a liberal arts education, which I'm a true believer in the enduring value of all of that.
That's good. Yeah. How have you seen student engagement change over the time you've been teaching?
That's a good question. I mean, what students bring to the classroom is something that changes, you know, in terms of preparation, but also in terms of like the faculties that they bring and the interests that they bring, the things that they care about. Like it's always there, but it kind of changes form. And that's why I think like as a teacher, you have to really open to hearing what your students are saying and bringing, because it's always going to change. But it also keeps it alive for you as a teacher. And I don't think students always realize how much teachers learn from their students, just in the way that you speak about things and how it's different than like the way that we speak about things, or the concerns and the questions that you bring and the things that you're capable of grasping or the things that you respond to. Like I'm continually like kind of surprised and also inspired by just like the way my students react to things. Like it keeps it alive, and then it opens things that then I can learn as if I'm learning for the first time all over again. So it's like going back to being like a student.
On the flip side of that, what do you think is the most difficult part of keeping a student engaged?
It can be like trying to understand what gets in the way of that, because it's often very real. And it can be a lack of self-confidence. It can be, you know, a fear of failure, or, you know, it can be a lot of stuff that's really real that you can't just ignore or jump over. You have to actually engage it and get a student interested in using their education as a way of addressing the kind of challenges and the suffering in their life. Which again, is just not what we look to education for anymore. It's all like, this is going to get me like on a career path. And I just think there's all this human stuff that comes into education that is really the stuff of education. But do students really want to have their education be that? Or do they want it to be like measurable outcomes, predictable, you know, pathways? Because there's a comfort in that. And an order.
Well, I don't think students don't want it to be a meaningful experience, but I also think that college nowadays is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And so if you do not get
back to transactional value, right?
Yes, but I
It's
mean,
real,
like
I
a
know.
legitimate one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
And so it's if you don't get some like a measurable outcome from your college education, is it worth the thousands of dollars you've put into it?
Mhm.
Time is money. That's an important.
We're talking capitalism again.
There it is.
Sure.
Oh yeah, like the general education classes that you may not be very interested in but have to go to just because it's part of the requirement.
Mhm.
I mean,
How do you make your peace with something like that? Because you guys have been in them. Like I had none in my education. Like I wasn't required to take anything.
mm,
But you guys have a lot of that. Like how do you make your peace with a class like that you're kind of, being required or programmed to take?
I don't think I ever did make my peace with it. I would say that was like the most frustrating thing about my college experience. Was also like less than half of my classes were even allowed to be in my major.
Yeah.
Um, and so then you fill up with these like just kind of like random like sciences and maths, and it's I like science and math, but not that much, and I don't like the way that they teach it to like the intro level to non majors, where it's just kind of like an easy, get by class.
So it's like box checking,
Yeah.
kind of. Does that make you angry? Like that your education would be kind of reduced to that? Or is it just something you kind of have to suck it up and like get through?
It could be both. It could frustrate me and upset me, but it's also like I didn't have any control over it.
Hmm.
yeah, I think I have the opposite perspective because I came into college undeclared. I did not have a major or anything like that. And taking all the gen eds at the start, I threw myself head first into all of these different courses that sort of suggested like which pathway I might want to pursue.
Uh-huh.
I had like ideas on what I wanted to do. I think ones that stood out to me: history, psychology, English, a bunch of other like computer science, political science. Later on, all of these like stood out to me as like interests that I could have been engaged with.
Oh.
And I collected all of the gen eds at the start of my time. So once it got down to the end, I was just checking off, making sure I was get on progress with all my history stuff instead. And that was the most fun part.
Uh-huh.
I get to share all of the experiences with people that had the same major as me.
But you derived benefit from taking like required classes that weren't necessarily a part of your path.
Yeah, I think that it was really engaging for me to actually learn all these different skills. And like I wouldn't say it was necessarily the skills. It was more like, would I want to pursue this as my future? And I think also maybe the teachers might have played a role in this, which, I mean, it is what it is. When it comes to the gen eds, usually how the structure is the heads of the department sometimes are the people that are like pushed forth as the representative of sorts. So it was like there were certain times where I had classes that I had to just check the box, and I was like, once I'm done with this, I can look back and never think about this ever again. But like it really did shape me towards the path that I wanted to go because I would be like, okay, I don't want to go into psychology, or
now I know.
Yeah, now I know. Now I know what it would be like if I wanted to pursue this as my job.
No, I love Owen the way that you put it in the beginning because it's almost like you became alert to your possible selves and that you're not entirely identified or confined by like a single course of study, but like you've actually explored the possibilities of like yourself and your life, what you think. Like that should be, I think, what you get from a general education curriculum.
I think it was the smartest thing I did when I came into college. Is just giving myself that leeway rather than forcing myself into the box. I gave myself the space to develop what I wanted to do for my future, and then once I figured it out, it was off to the races.
But you've taken a lot from like other fields. like in your historical studies? I mean, it's stuff you and I have talked about, like drawing, like you're doing right now with World War One, on like psychology and maybe critical theory, and like the Smith book is all literary studies.
Sure.
Like, how is that to draw on different like disciplines without really having like a grounding in it? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I think, like, in retrospect, if I knew, like, if I knew, like, I want to do history and I want to get a master's in history and I want to, like, really focus in on it and use different fields, then I probably could have constructed a general education that fit that better. Like, I could have taken more art history classes. I could have taken more. I didn't take any literature classes, or I took, like, one. I didn't take any psychology classes, which I don't particularly enjoy psychology, but I also think, like, kind of like what Owen was saying, it was valuable. I came in as a political science major, like, take all the poli-sci stuff. I took, like, an absurd amount of political science credits. And so to also, like, I think A, just explore things, but also B, have something to do that wasn't history. Because sometimes I think if you're taking so many history classes one semester, I enjoy it, but it can get to a point where it's like, I need a break, where it's like, I actually really enjoyed the semesters where I took, like, a math or a language class and I could do something that wasn't, like, reading and writing all the time.
Huh. So did you guys both get to a point of having what you feel like is a mind and maybe a voice that's truly yours? That's truly you? Like, is that happening? It's like happening now for you.
For me?
Kind of. Like in the way you talk about your grad studies, and like you're drawing more freely and more confidently on all kinds of things in order to concoct something that's yours. Like, is this something that you feel like you have or have moved toward? Like a sense that your education is yours rather than it's this thing that the institution kind of offers and confers.
I think it's something that, as you go, I think it sort of shapes. I think I did my best when it comes to, like, taking advantage of, like, all that the university was able to give me, but, like, I think there were some aspects that, like, I'm still sort of finding my voice in some ways, and I think that
like in general, or when you write in particular, do you feel that kind of questing, like after?
I think it's just a thing where perhaps I'll just always be trying to find my voice, where I know what I am, I know who I am, but, like, I think a constant reevaluation of yourself and what things mean to you and what's most important is always important when it comes to, like, trying to define yourself.
Yeah. And when you see yourself speaking from there, from like deep convictions and like things that are a part of your experience, you know, like then you're kind of almost inhabiting like a voice.
Yeah.
It can be different situations too. Like, I don't even think it has to necessarily be academics. You know, you can find it in a certain line of work that you do, or, you know, helping other people, or like parenting. Like, I think there are all of these different ways where you can kind of notice that you're actually speaking from a deeper part of yourself.
Yeah.
I just wonder how education can help in that. You both seem to be saying it actually gave you a lot of the tools to be able to, like, speak more deeply from self, like in a voice that's yours.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, I was scared of public speaking, but one of the things that the school's given me was, like, the confidence to get up there and be like, hey, yeah.
It's hard.
It is. As someone who, like, barely ever spoke in class for a while, I think slowly getting out of my shell, raising my hand, being willing to take that risk, I suppose. It's very important. And then, like, getting engaged in certain activities outside of school that would help in furthering that, making me better as a public speaker, I think is really important as well.
I remember seeing that in your work in class, because you would, a lot of times, you were always very, very present, but would wait to speak until, like, the time when you wanted to speak and had something to say. like in your own eyes, and then would say it in a way that was actually really yours.
Yeah, I was cerebral in that way, I think. It was very important to me that what I said had value, and I wasn't just talking to talk, I suppose.
Yeah. That's great, though, to be able to actually claim that like space as something that's yours instead of conforming with expectations of the class or the professor or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. Like I couldn't do that at all as an undergraduate. I couldn't speak.
Yeah. Does that bother you?
It just feels very hypocritical because I kind of expect it of my students, but like I know that I didn't really do it. Like I spoke when I wrote. Like my writing voice was my speaking voice. But that's perfectionism because it was just about needing to be able to say it in a really articulate and like perfected way and not accepting anything less than that. And I spend all my time now trying to convince students that
you were saying something. You should finish what you're saying. Maybe you can ask
just the hypocrisy of encouraging students to be
Oh,
more
yes.
forgiving of themselves and more inviting of risk when I know in my own life that like I struggled a lot with that and still do. And so it feels a little bit kind of unfair to like be asking other people to take risks that I refrained from taking.
Yeah. Do you have like a perfectionist nature to you? Like aspects where you feel like you're...
I've worked on it a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's been like a central thing that I've had to work on in my life. You know, when you have kids and you parent, perfectionism is just toxic. It's like a poison. And you can kind of become, there's like a whole professorial archetype of the professor who's like kind of disappointed in him or herself and then sort of passes that disappointment off on those around them, whether it's students or their children, and that's to be avoided at all costs. But then doing it partly as a way of being kinder to yourself is another thing, and that I've had to work on a lot more, just to, you know, like be more forgiving of yourself. And coming also, I mean, the thing that's really helped for me is, you know, through like Buddhist practice, like getting more into the idea of not knowing and like proceeding from, you know, what's called a beginner's mind or a don't know mind, and that's actually way better. Like you don't have to figure everything out, you know, to be able to articulate everything, or you don't have to like be on the trail of finding answers. A lot of times like not knowing is really the place to be.
Very wise.
Yeah.
It's just much easier on the world because it's less imposition upon the world and less expectation and less, you know, analyzing and articulating.
I feel like sometimes we put so heavy of expectations on ourselves
that
we feel like we have to live up to a certain ideal of what we should become. But
do you have this too?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
I get very mean to myself sometimes, as Campbell knows.
It can be all internalized though, so it's not necessarily visible to others. I think that can even make it more pernicious because it's this cudgel that you're using to like, scold yourself or discipline yourself. It comes out of some weird, deeply seated fear of not being worthy. Unless you perform in a certain way and kind of see yourself doing that and then others seeing that too. But others are a lot of times more forgiving of us than we are of ourselves. Yeah. It's just a really horrible way to be.
It is. It's a heavy burden, unfortunately. It gets annoying. I think it has pushed me to try and be the best self that I can be.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no such thing as like perfection, I suppose.
And it, you know, you reach diminishing returns with it too when like that no longer works for you. I mean, I got to that point in grad school and like it just driving myself harder and performing and getting plaudits for doing so, like just stopped working. And I didn't really have a plan B.
Sometimes you just burn out.
And that's what you have to go through. I think you almost have to like fail and flame out a little in order to realize, okay, to have other impulses.
What's your thoughts on this?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry you go through this.
Yeah.
Sorry you're a perfectionist.
Do you think it is a guy thing on some level?
No.
I mean, I know women who are like more perfectionists.
I apologize, but I actually don't think it is at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anything, it's the opposite. I think I know more women who are perfectionists than guys who are perfectionists.
Do they deal with it in the same way or differently, you think?
You know, I think it depends.
Hmm.
I think there's a. I think it depends. I don't want to hate on men here, but I think sometimes, if anything, women are better emotionally.
Yeah, this is a safe space.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not you guys. It's nothing to you guys. But I think sometimes men don't recognize what they're doing wrong when they have these like perfectionist urges. And they also don't necessarily realize how it affects other people.
Yeah. And then they burrow more deeply into self. And I think that just makes everything worse. Whereas if there's like communication and relationality, then you can kind of rein it in.
Which men often don't have.
Yeah. Well, then, there are reasons, I think, for having some reticence around that. Like if it is ego and like the status of your ego, a lot of times I think that can get in the way of just saying, I'm screwing up, I'm lost. No, but you and I have talked about this a lot. This like how to have drivenness that's actually like healthy, and knowing when this is shading off into something that's maybe not healthy. That's maybe no longer about this thing that I'm doing. Maybe about some other thing that I'm desperately trying to prove that doesn't really need proving.
Do you think you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
good. But what you can do, you can recognize it, and then you can catch yourself, and you can, instead of driving yourself harder, you can figure out ways to be kind and forgiving, compassionate toward yourself and toward the world, and like that's a much better path.
That's great. Okay. Well, that was a great conversation. Thank you for coming on. You. But we're not done yet. Don't worry.
No. Don't leave.
Don't leave. We would of course like to first ask our question from last week's guest. And this is actually 2 episodes back because we had a special episode last week. This is from episode 16, Lobster Reel. He would like to know, if you could master any instrument, what would it be?
Oh wow, probably cello.
Cello. Good pick. Good pick. And then your question for next week's guest.
What makes you feel most alive?
That's a good question.
Yeah. That's a great question. All right, and now we are going to do rapid fire questions. Owen is going to lead us off whenever you're ready, Owen.
All right. My first question is, what's your thoughts on the Buffalo Bills' performance this season?
Utterly predictable. Yeah, like that's a team that you support if you have an inclination toward suffering. So. Now, the question that lies below that is the Dostoevskian question of like, why are human beings drawn to suffering? Even when they know how to avoid it, why do they still kind of come back to suffering? And that's the quandary of a team like the Buffalo Bills. Used to be the Red Sox quandary, too.
Also. Has always been the Jets quandary.
The Jets. Yeah.
All right, good answer. My question, we're going to do 3 each, if that hasn't been clarified. You like to cook. You used to be a chef. What's your favorite dish to cook?
Oh, God. I don't know. I mean, whatever I'm cooking at the moment, like I just really, I love getting totally lost in like just how tactile and how immediate that is compared to like academic work, which is just kind of boundless. Like that was always the thing that I loved about cooking when I did it professionally, and still love it, is just how tangible it is and how immediate. And it's just really about like what you're doing, what you're making, and then you eat it together, and it's just very tactile. It's kind of a model for my teaching. It's like the cooking. I try to make my teaching more like kind of cooking and food and eating.
Interesting.
That's that's interesting.
Yeah. So one question I always love to ask the guests, What is your favorite book that you have read in the past year?
Uh, Past year, I just love all the stuff I read. I mean, I read The Impusium by Olga Tokarczuk, who won the Nobel Prize, and she's a Polish author who's like feminist environmentalist, and it's kind of a contemporary rewriting of Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain, because it's kind of set in like this spa, but it just deals a lot with like masculinity and violence and environmental harm and the interconnectedness of life and fungi, and it's just totally wild and great. She's like such a great writer. She feels like a really kindred spirit to me.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's great. She's just great. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead is like an earlier novel of hers, which, the title kind of gives you a sense for how cool it is. Yeah, she's awesome, though.
You are a historian of France. Why France?
Originally, I was going to do England, and French history just seemed like in the historiography to be much more leavened by like theoretical insights, and British history, and this is maybe kind of a generalization, but it just seemed to have a little bit of that Anglo-American kind of empiricism, whereas French history was much more informed by French theory. And I was actually not a history person as an undergrad. I was a literature person, and so I studied a lot of critical theory, and then did some of that in grad school as well, but realized that that part of my formation could kind of find much more expression within French history and historiography than in Anglo-American stuff. So, like, I had earlier encounters with American history and also English history, which I really enjoyed, but at a certain point realized, like, I really need to do something kind of, it's more based in French experience, and then ultimately empire as well.
For my last question, you spent a good portion of your life in New York. And I wanted to ask you, what's one thing that you miss about New York, and what's one thing that you do not miss at all about New York?
I miss not being able to keep up with the city because of how rich its cultural offerings were. Like, you couldn't see all the bands that came through town. You couldn't see all these amazing exhibitions at the different museums. You couldn't keep up with the food. Like, you just couldn't keep up. And that is such like a modern experience of the city just being teeming with energy and possibility, which was the thing I first fell in love with in New York. Paris too, but Paris is kind of smaller and, different country. But yeah, New York kind of had that. What I don't miss is how incredibly unaffordable it gets, and that if you're not really making more and more and more money, like, you move further and further away from being able to live the New York life that I just described. And so at a certain point you really feel like, why am I living here? I can't really live a New York life here. You kind of can, but Boston is just as expensive now. And now that Zoran's on, I'm kind of thinking about maybe making a return.
Yeah.
I talk about it with my daughter. It's really, we just talk about going down there and sharing like a New York life.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
It may happen.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. My final rapid fire question. We have been doing faculty questions on the whiteboard, and we noticed that you missed the question about your favorite song. So I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite song?
That's why I don't really have one.
You don't have a single song that you
can't really think of
this
that.
is one of my favorites?
Not really. It's the song you're in at the moment.
What song are you in at the moment?
Nothing, really.
No song.
No song, no music?
Less of that in the fall. Yeah, it's been more like visual art.
Do you have a favorite piece of visual art?
Not really.
Do you listen to anything when you drive home from work? Oh. Okay.
Do you have any answer, like anything you enjoy?
No.
No? Okay.
You enjoy nothing.
What
Fair
makes you
enough.
feel most alive? Nothing makes you feel alive?
That's like a Zen question.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing I love is nothing.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll accept that answer.
Loving
I guess.
nothing
I
is
guess
really the
so.
best state because you don't need anything. Like you're not attached to anything. Like you're a state of pure being.
Wow.
Nothing.
Look at you.
Nothing
Unmoored.
is as good as nothing.
Wow. Good answer. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We were so excited to have you. Please give a round of applause, audience, sitting at home. Do you have any final words for our audience?
No,
No, nothing.
nothing.
Well, thank you for coming on.
He loves nothing.
Sure.
He loves nothing.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next week with episode 19
Yeah.
of the History Club podcast. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming on. It was so lovely to have a faculty perspective on the podcast. It was one of our goals since the start of the season.
Yes, thank you.
And we appreciate you for coming on.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Bye.